And we want to learn with you together from Rav Leitman how to build our lives here in Israel in a new way, like one family. We want to get up in the morning with a big light in our eyes, with the feeling that whoever's next to us is looking after us, loving us, and wants the best for us. And we want the same for them. And we want to create here together a new place where inside the society that we know we start living a new life, a life of warmth and connection. So to understand this big vision of Rav Leitman's for the Israeli society that will be like one family, each time we take a various element of the Israeli ancient culture, we try to look at it in a new light and understand how these insights and feelings can take our life to a new place. Our subject today is something that personally it really excites me, and I'll tell you why. Today we want to speak about the prophets of Israel. Why is it so exciting? We spoke in previous shows about all kinds of things from the ancient Jewish culture, but when we were preparing for the show today, and I read in the Bible, in the Tanakh, all kinds of prophecies, I remembered my childhood, that ever since I was a young child, in shul, in synagogue, apart from the weekly portion, they used to read something from the prophets. I grew up in a religious family, not just any religious program, but in a Yemenite family. And we have a tradition before going to synagogue. There's a tradition that on Friday evening, after we finish the meal and the songs and everything, apart from reading the whole portion together, we read also the Haftarah. And I remember that my father, when we used to finish the weekly portion, it would pass. And then when we'd read the Haftarah, I felt as if it's not just that we're reading, but it's like he's talking to me. What does it mean, talking to me? I felt as if it's giving me advice for my life through what the prophets are saying. What things do I remember? It even used to come across in the tone of what he's saying. It's like he's saying, Oren, my dear son, if you want a good life, pick up the frequency of what he's saying here. This is the truth. This is the justice. This is what's pure. Don't get mixed up with what you hear and see around you, that this is how you have to treat people. It basically comes down to how you treat people, that this is how you succeed in life. This is all rubbish. This is the original. What you hear from him, this is the original. What you hear, what God wants from a person, this is here. He wants you to be a good person. He wants love between people. He doesn't pay attention to your prayers and all that. He wants your heart. He wants your heart to be open to other people. And now when I look back, I see that this emphasis that I felt, that my father's educating me and directing me how it's correct to live as a person according to what the prophets wrote thousands of years ago, I understand that now it's so powerful inside me. And it brings us to our discussion today. When we look at Jewish history, I think there's no question that the prophets were the greatest people, the people that understood life completely, the people of truth. And the question is, how can you explain to us this phenomenon of the wise ones of Israel? What makes a person so smart? Why does he understand life on the sword, and he knows to cut what's the main thing, the marginal, what's truth, what's fake? Where does this wisdom come from? From knowing the network of connection between people. If we even take, for example, another source, much later, the book of Ramchal, Derech Hashem, Luchato. It's the 16th century, the 17th century, I think, maybe the 17th century. In Italy. It's a completely different era, and he writes there stages that a person goes up through love, through connection, through sympathy, compromise, through all this internal work that he does on his desires, on his heart. He goes through all the stages and reaches the higher stages, and one is called a Nevuá, prophecy. What does it mean? That he sees such a connection between people and the rest of nature from the degree of the speaking level, the human level. He sees how from there, even though the roots go down more and more and more downward to the animal level, the vegetative level, the inanimate level, and how all these stages in nature are connected, these degrees, and how one force envelopes them, is around them in an integral, global manner. And all this operates as one system that's called reality. And then we verify what can a person do with that same reality. And then when they research it, they see that truly through compromising on the ego, giving up your ego, that you can feel others, that you can integrate with others like you feel yourself, love thy neighbor as thyself. Through this, you begin to feel what's happening in them, everyone, in all of reality, even more so than what you see, because our senses are things that you can absorb, but when you go outward and feel them, how they are, all the inanimate, animate, vegetative, and human especially, then you begin to feel, you begin to live them. And then you get new sensations, new feelings. What the vegetative doesn't have compared to the speaking level, what the animate level compared to the human level, and compared to the egoistic human and the person that goes out of himself, that lives inside everyone, inside his fellow man. He first and foremost feels all the levels of nature, of reality, because he's capable of getting out of his ego to such an extent. And he also feels the generalness of all of reality, that it's like the wisdom of the collective, it's the network connecting everyone, balancing everyone, and how he, this person, can influence this network to calm it down, to bring it into balance. And these people, they see all the situations that can be inside this network that connects us. And when they go out into the network, they don't have a sense of time, but rather they have a sense of the situation. In this situation, this will happen. In this situation, this will happen. And then they talk about it as if it's about to happen, because they see the development of the network. And then they say, if we behave like this and like this, then there will be a reaction from the connection between us, a really bad, extreme reaction. If we behave like this, there'll be a good reaction. They don't tell us, do this, this, and this will happen for sure, but rather, if it depends on the person, to the extent that we, in accordance with our work on our ego, we will become integrated in this network and transform it into a good connection between us and all the parts of reality. That's how it works. So there are prophets at two levels. One says, I heard. I had a voice, I heard a voice, I heard, it was spoken to me, that this is the degree of Bina, the degree of understanding, but only understanding. What does he understand? He understands that this is how it will take place. And there's a degree I saw, an even higher degree, like between hearing and seeing, where he not only knows that this will take place, he also knows why. It's even deeper. He goes even deeper into the network. We know that even in court, when they bring a person, they don't ask him, did you see or hear? If you saw, if you didn't see, you're not a witness. A witness is someone who saw that he's integrated in a maximum manner in the reality, in all his senses. That about sight, we say, here there's no question. But hearing, a broken phone, as people say, it can be anything. Therefore, there's prophets that say, I heard, and there's prophets that say, I saw. But all of them, those and those, and even people at stages before prophecy, they have acquired the network, the connection between us, to the extent that they are more and more sophisticated in the implementation, realization of love thy neighbor as thyself. And this is how they reach the degrees of prophecy.